Hi, I'm Adlena. I'm a hairstylist from Australia and I currently live in New York, and I usually work on fashion sets, beauty sets, on location or in photo studios, and what I love so much about my job is being able to meet different creatives from all around the world and the collaborative process, seeing a vision come to life. And what I've been realizing recently is that I need a lot more support with my business. I'm a business owner, so this means I need maybe legal advice, tax advice, accounting, finances, and then brand and marketing. So I'm bringing different experts from my community, connecting them with creatives in order to really feel supported. And today we have Tish, my sister. She's a brand marketing expert, and I'll let you give a bit of an intro.
Yeah, so I'm a brand marketing expert. I work with founders, I work with creatives, and I work with business owners to help them build their brand and help them tell their story. And when we're thinking about brand work, we're really thinking about the foundations of your business. And as Adlena just mentioned, like so much of building your brand, so much of marketing yourself, and working on these things is really to find the language, is to be able to understand what are the words that resonate with me, with what I'm doing, and really being able to build something that has a very, very strong foundation. And so working on your brand or working on your personal brand and starting here sets you up to build a long-term sustainable business. And the way that I actually think about brand and marketing is quite holistically. So what you'll notice in how we kind of conduct this conversation today is that you will see that it takes into account the whole person. And so that means we're really thinking about these things not in silo, but thinking about it collectively.
Yeah. And then I love how you said whole person. Part of a whole person to me is your energy as well. Do you want to take us through this intro exercise?
Yeah, so before we kind of dive deep into the conversation, I want to take a moment for us to kind of ground ourselves, exactly as you said. And I really like doing this because I feel like it does, to your point, take into the whole person. So I would like to invite you, if you feel comfortable to do so, to close your eyes.
Okay.
And I'll get you to rub your hands together. Start to breathe in and out. And put your hands on your legs or anywhere that feels comfortable. And take some big deep breaths in and out. Just center ourselves and ground ourselves ahead of our conversation. I find this is most important if you're living in a city because our nervous system can very easily be unregulated. So doing these things can really help support our work and our life. And I'll get you to rub your hands together one more time. And open up your eyes.
I feel amazing. I feel like I needed that.
Yeah,
Probably need it more than I know.
yeah, definitely. I think so. And I think, like what I said before, like if you're working in a city and if you're living in a city, there's just so much going on around us. And when we bring back and speak to this point of like the whole person, it's like appreciating that there is a human behind the business, there is a human behind the brand. And it's really important that we consider that human in the business building world or landscape. And that's why I really, 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 really believe in speaking to these elements as well as speaking to other elements of our business.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel really good. Like I'm like present and fully able to like be here for this conversation. So thank you. That was really nice. So I think part of what we're really going to talk about today is a very specific way, I think, of building or thinking about business and brand. We're looking at through a lens of building something that's aligned, sustainable, longevity, happy, joyous, ease, flow, all these different words that really speak to something that can last and something that can feel easy, joyous. What do you think about brand when you think about like these types of words?
Yeah, and I think that's important because the lens that we are speaking or the lens that we are seeing our business through today when we think about building our brand, when we think about marketing ourselves, is really this idea that we want something to be aligned and we want to build something that is aligned in order for us to actually feel good in growing and developing and nurturing our business. And that's what lights me up because I'm in the business of actually enjoying my life and
Right.
enjoying my work. And of course, there are other ways of navigating this path. But for me, I really teach this way of doing things. Like there is a world that exists where you can actually feel really good whilst you are building your business and whilst you're building your brand.
Yeah, amazing. And so today, I think it's going to be really important if you just help us define what is brand and what is marketing.
Yes. So when we think about brand and marketing, they kind of are in the same ecosystem. They're in the same world, but they are very different things. So when I think about brand, I think about the visual and the verbal world that we're building. I think about graphics. I think about creative. I think about logos. I think about typography. I think about primary and secondary logos. And this is the design part. And then I think about words. I think about language, tone of voice, your belief systems, your purpose, your vision, your mission. And so this is the brand world. And when we think about marketing, we're really thinking about choosing the channels in order for you to communicate who you are, the brand, the product, the service, to the humans that are in your ecosystem, to your audience, to your community, etc., etc. So they're kind of like interchangeable.
Right. But today we're focusing on brand, and really it's the before you even go to market, before you even step foot out the door. It's like, what's the foundation? Who are you?
Literally, that is literally what we're doing. And sometimes it can feel quite obvious because you're almost building a character profile.
Right.
And by obvious, I mean when we think about ourselves or when we're like analyzing ourselves, we have a certain set of beliefs and we have a certain set of values. But what we're just doing in this part when we're building the brand is we're just identifying them and we're
Right.
putting pen to
Right, right,
paper,
right.
you know?
Yeah, I love that. So it's like being quite specific, seeing ourselves as unique, and actually doing certain exercises or tasks to narrow down on what makes you different, what sets you apart. And then the next part is marketing. That's how you communicate that. Got you. Okay. So we're going to be talking about three key areas today. We're talking about inner world, outer world, and then getting visible. So let's kick off with inner world.
Yeah, inner world. So when I think about our inner world, part of it is the nervous system regulation. Like we spoke about that and we just did that exercise. But the other part is really being able to analyze and think about our belief systems, think about our values, think about our purpose, our mission, our vision. These are intangible. These are thoughts. These are constructs. And so the inner work is almost like invisible at the beginning because we're really thinking about the way our brain works. We're thinking about how we see the world. And starting with this part really allows us to start to see ourselves outside of ourselves. And you mentioned exercises before. And so a really nice, approachable way that I like to start working with clients is to use a particular set of exercises. One exercise that I want to share with you is in order for us to kind of see ourselves and understand ourselves, what I would have you do as a creative, if I was working with you, would be to list out every job that you have ever had in your life, put that on paper, and start to see the themes and the trends in you as Adlena.
Right.
And so let's like do it now. Do you want to like
just
speak
thinking,
to
could it
this?
be like volunteer? Could it be like any age? Like It can really be anything, right?
Yeah, yeah. Any job that you've had, your internship, any work experience.
Okay.
So let's speak to you and do it now.
Okay, in the hot seat. Well, my first job was probably, mum made me do it, teach piano to a kid that was in primary school. And it was very basic piano. It was probably like notes and it was chords and it was like very basic songs. So that's probably my first job. My second was a paper round, like delivering like junk mail to different people. I really liked that. And then I got over it and dad had to do it for me. And then maybe my third was finally, in the salon on Saturdays washing people's hair.
Yeah, okay. So when we are thinking about this like inner world piece and we're thinking about putting our beliefs and our values on paper, I see this as you teaching people. That's like what I'm hearing. I'm hearing like when you were teaching somebody piano, when you're working on the floor in a salon, you're actually working with humans. That means there's dialogue that is included there. That means there's really like slow, intentional breaking things step by step down in order to teach someone something.
Right.
And so for me, when I see this, I'm already drawing similarities here between what you do now as a stylist on, New York Fashion Week, for example. You are leading a team backstage. That means you have to break things down. You have to help with the process. And you also have to guide people. And so for you, when we're thinking about your brand and when we're thinking about the type of person you are, maybe part of your value system is you value collaboration and you value community. Even just in having this conversation here, you're valuing these things. And so what we start doing in this inner work piece is really starting to see ourselves outside of ourselves.
Right.
And so you start to put on paper, who is Adlena? She's a collaborative person who is very good at breaking down processes in order to help lead people towards a common goal and be able to meet and exceed that goal.
Wow, I've actually never heard it like that. It gives me like shivers because it's like, wow, you've simplified all this stuff that's going on in my head. It's like my whole life journey, like you said, it's hard to see yourself. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. That's me.
I feel like brand work, and I know we have like conversations like this all the time, but brand work is so important for you to start seeing yourself from a different point of view. And I think it's important because I believe we need to do more introspective, reflective work on ourselves. It is no one else's responsibility other than yours. And I think if we learned more about ourselves, we would be able to operate in this world a lot easier. And simple things. By having self-awareness, you can actually operate in this world in a way that you're helping others understand you.
Right,
You know?
right. And being able to communicate that, whether it be for a new job, a promotion at work, or really even a conversation at a dinner party or something.
That is exactly it. And so with this brand work, it is so important if you're a creative, if you're wanting to, start a product, let's just say you want to release a mascara, or if you're a service provider like me, I'm a consultant. It is so important that you have this self-awareness and you start to understand yourself so that you can start to not only like vet opportunities in a more appropriate, streamlined
An aligned way.
Literally that. You actually then at the same time know what you need. You know what your hell yeses are. You know what your no's are. So with the brand work, yes, it's brilliant if you are wanting to promote yourself and you're wanting to get out there and build something that you're really proud of. But also as a human, it is so important. And I find that there are so many similarities, or at least there are so many pieces in this process that's actually applicable to any human.
Can we talk about values? I mean, we just touched on it briefly when you mentioned like my values, for example, community and like education. But then like I think we have to be quite specific when we talk about values and making them relative to me. Like, what do I think community means? What do I think collaboration means or education means? How do we break that down for different people?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with values work, and only because never assume that people see the world how you see the world. And I think this is where we bring in these words like clarity, and we bring in these words like being specific. And it's really important when you're thinking of building an aligned life, work life, career, that you start to identify your values and also identify what those values mean to Adlena, and not assuming that how you see community is the way that Tish sees community.
Right.
And so here we are really defining what are the sets or principles or rules that you are going to move forward with and build your business on.
Right.
So with the values work, for me, if we do this, you actually are able to have a work life that feels in line with your vibe, with your essence, with what you want to create and produce. Also who you want to collaborate with. Like, let's be honest, with creatives, if you know what you stand for and if you have your values very clearly defined, what starts happening is when you start showing up as yourself, you start to attract those people into your ecosystem.
Right.
The right photographers, the right stylists, the right makeup artists. There are a billion people in the world, and you want to work with your humans, you know, the people that align with you. But how can you find those people and live the aligned life, whatever, or build the business that feels really good if you don't know what your values are?
So I'll use myself as an example again. If one of my values is community, what does community mean to me? Okay, community means keeping things accessible, my wider network, whether it be international, people I've known for years, people who I work with on set, maybe people who are beginning in their creative endeavor, maybe their hair endeavor, or even people who are very established. I guess that's kind of what community means to me.
Yeah, and I think just by way of like being your sister and like knowing these things about you, I see community as such a strong red thread in everything that you do, in terms of you actually helping people in your community and really teaching them and being able to say, hey, this is information that I've found really valuable. Maybe you would find it valuable too. Even in having this conversation, it shows that there is a sense of like wanting to make information accessible. You know, we're kind of against the gatekeeping piece, and it's like, everybody, there's a slice of pie for you all, and like, let's help each other. You know, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I'm actually wanting to rise the collective. And a lot of the volunteer work you do as well, that isn't actually associated with specifically hair, but you are volunteering because you are serving and giving back and being of service in the community. And that is the other part that I find really cool about values work. We're not just talking about your profession. In this, we're not just talking about hair. It is not about that. It is about you as a human. And then we can bring in the fact that you are also a hairstylist. But these are kind of, again, looking at the whole person and considering the whole person in the brand. I mentioned it before. You have to be more than your product and your service.
Right.
You have to be.
So are you thinking then like hobbies? Are you thinking interests? Like,
yeah, all of that.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we are diverse, rich, it's, you know, varied humans. And when we think about building a brand, we have to acknowledge those parts. You know, we have to acknowledge the fact that I am a, you know, consultant. I'm also a sister. I'm also, you know, a friend. I'm also someone who is absolutely obsessed with ecstatic dance. I'm a dancer. You know, I love like connecting with my soul and connecting with my community via somatic movement and practices. But I'm all those things. And that's what makes me interesting. That's what makes me unique. And similar to you, there are so many people that probably fit your same character profile if we were to put you on paper.
What, like hairstylist, mid-30s, Australian living in New York, so on and so on.
Exactly. And it's your responsibility to understand who you are in order for you to then communicate that to the world.
Right.
And so with your brand, what your unique selling point is, and in brand marketing jargon, that's USP, it's you. You know, you are your USP, and you are the thing that will help you get that next job, will help you align with those new clients. It's going to be you and the essence. Because if there's two people who have the same profile, the only thing separating them is really their personality and who they are.
And then what other things, under the umbrella of inner work, what are other things that we can sort of do? So we've talked about maybe writing down every job you've had. Can you talk more about maybe like the nervous system regulation, somatic work?
And this is like part of it is, like meditation, for example. Part of it can look like this. Part of it can look like movement and dancing and being able to just like move your body and connect with that kind of heart center. So you're like out from your head and you're more into your body. So you can actually make grounded
Right.
choices
Right.
and hear what your body is telling you.
So
Really.
maybe like running without music or a podcast,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm already thinking about that. Walking without music or a podcast, swimming because you can't have music or a podcast, connecting with yourself through your body.
Yeah, exactly. And in that way, if we think and we use like meditation as an example, it can be, and I know we've had conversations about this, many times before, like it's hard to do that. It's hard to kind of like move yourself from a place of high vibration to grounded, calm, chill. And so an accessible way of starting to develop the skill of meditation could be to, like you said, just go for a walk without your phone, literally around the block. Just start there.
Detaching.
Just start to see that there is a separation between this and this. And I speak about building one's altar and building one's very grounded space within your body that you can kind of come back to, you can come home to, whatever language feels right for you to use. But this altar allows you to exist and operate and show up in the world from a place of grounded knowing. And that directly correlates into confidence.
Right.
And that is something that we're also going to talk about today.
Yeah, I feel like the confidence piece is deep. It's like, how do you even cultivate, how do you even begin when you don't think that you have it?
I mean, again, the internal work is like
know.
part of it is your belief system.
Right.
And really being able to believe that you are worthy of getting the job amongst a million other people that are also up for getting the job. And that is a big piece in really understanding, okay, how can I build my confidence? No, it's not going to happen tomorrow. So let's just like draw a line under the sand there, but know that we can start to build in things, exercises, techniques that help us clean the climate of our brain.
Right. So if we had a blackboard, well, I mean, that's years ago. If we had a whiteboard, dusting that off, wiping that off, clear the slate.
And be able to bring in thoughts, be able to bring in supportive language so that we stay on our team. And I really, I mean, I talk about this a lot. Like you are your business owner. You are somebody who, yeah, I know you have an agent and they are a support part of your support system, but also you need to be on your team.
Right.
And I really encourage business owners and creatives and freelancers to take that seriously. Like you need to choose you and you need to be on your team, and that is your responsibility. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but if we start just with awareness to be able to say, hey, how am I talking to myself? Like, would I say that to somebody else? Is that supportive language? Maybe I need to learn more. Maybe I'm not feeling good, or I'm feeling insecure because actually like I'm not as experienced as I'd like to be. Okay, let's not judge that thought, but let's say I'd like to be more experienced. Great. How can we think about getting you more experienced in the next day? Or how can we think about getting you more aligned clients if you're not happy right now? There are ways to work through this.
Right. So this is really inner work. It is the absolute foundation before we even think about, like we said, our channels, going to market, how we market. The inner work is us. Who are we? Where do we begin from? Where do we come from? What do we believe? What are our values? And everything that supports that, our nervous system, our body, our regulation.
I think what I want to say here is we need to take the inner work seriously as much as we take the outer work seriously. And so by that, I mean, we live in a very aesthetically driven world where the creative final product or image is the aspiration. That's the thing that we look to. That's the thing that gives us clout or puts us in a position or puts us in a lane. That is brilliant and that is so important. But we cannot discredit the inner world, and we can't discredit that there are other things and other elements that deserve a seat at the table. And so I really advocate for this. I really advocate for this holistic way of thinking about things and being able to give airtime to all the other things, like the fact that, I don't want to be a nervous wreck turning up to set, or I want to be someone who can conduct a meeting or can conduct a workshop and people can feel really grounded and good. And that doesn't come from me just being good at my job. That comes from me actually looking after myself as a human. So let's respect the inner world and respect the final product.
Right. So it's everything that leads up to the final product.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is probably a good time to move into this like outer world piece. And this is where the product comes in. So you're a freelancer, you're a creative, you're a business owner, you have an actual thing that you are selling. For example, we've just spoken a lot about these like bigger terms of these like belief systems and these values and our purpose and our mission and our vision. And now we're moving to like the practical things. Like, what is the product that we are needing to work on? And what is that thing that we're putting out in the world that we want to connect community with, that we want to build an audience around? And this part is really thinking about like, who are you and what service do you provide? And if I think about the type of work you do, can you talk a little bit about like what your product is and the type of work that you do?
Okay, so generally I'm hired to fulfill a vision of a client. So maybe they'll supply me with a mood board, references, and I style the hair to the brief. What I like about my job too is like building these relationships with these clients where then I can maybe make suggestions. And that comes from time, like relationships take time to develop. That comes from trust. And that also comes from my portfolio, I guess, being able to display like, hey, look, I've done this before. You can see that I've done that. And then it's recommendations, it's word of mouth, it's my agent pitching me. And it's basically getting the right people in the room to create the client's vision.
And here, like you were literally just talking then, and in my head, I'm like, I have so many things that we could do, like, and we could include online in order
Just from that.
literally in order for you to like build your brand. So let me like reel off a couple. Behind the scenes of you looking at the brief or reading the brief and actually like speaking to people about it on set or speaking to the client. Is there an image? Is there a reel? Is there a story? That's a photo of you guys discussing what you're going to do on set. That's like one thing already in my head. And we're building the brand because we are showing that you talk with a client and you actually have a conversation. Right. And now I can see as the consumer, audience member, prospective community participant that you talk and you collaborate because you're with other people, you're not by yourself. Other things are behind the scenes of you doing the hair, of actually working with the model, having the conversation. There's so much of what you speak about is being able to make people feel comfortable. And so much of like being on set is energy, really. Like you can pick up on energy through images and through videos. So again, this other part is you value people, you value making people feel good because you value community, and you actually bring that into the work that you do on set with models.
Right.
And that part of kind of showing who you are is really building your brand. Like that's part and parcel here. And depending on where you want to show that, you could show that on your website. You could talk about that on your website. You could talk about that in captions that you decide to use as accompanying copy for images.
Right. So this is sort of like being able to demonstrate my product or service or explain my product or service.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this is where that language piece comes in. So the outer world, which is what people see and what people hear and what people feel, this is you developing a toolkit of words and developing one-liners and developing language that will support you in finding the clients that you want, in being able to attract the customers, being able to attract the community. That's your vibe. But again, we're coming back to this R word, which is responsibility. That's on you. Like, you need to do that work. You need to understand yourself, and then you need to work on the language and the sentences.
Okay, so for example, a big part of my service and what I love, what I want more of, is collaboration. So making sure maybe somewhere on my website that I say literally collaboration.
I am looking for collaborative projects. This is a collaborative project I did last week. This is what I liked about it, because I worked with global models and I'm a global consultant.
It's like so clear.
So clear. And also, if you are at a mixer, or if you're at a mixer, I'm like,
Do I go to mixes?
I mean, maybe I need to go to more. I feel like in New York there are way more of those.
Okay, that's true. That's true. So if I'm at drinks,
if you're at drinks and you're like with people, like, you need to be able to pitch what you do. You need to have that one-liner. You need to have those words. You need to have that sentence so that you can really be able to communicate clearly to someone who you are, what your vibe is, what you want more of, and what you like. But nobody is going to give you that.
Right. And often I feel so often, maybe it's because I've just been doing hair for a very long time. But, if you're out in a social situation, I say I'm a hairstylist. That could mean 100 things. So it's like, how can I really be so specific in my little one-liner about what I do and how I do it and what I like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is another good thing to speak of. Goal setting, understand where you want to go.
Sure, so I can communicate that.
Yeah, so that you can get more of what you want.
Yeah.
If you want to become somebody who only does front cover, images on a particular magazine, or, you want to be somebody who works with a specific group of people in a specific location, and that's like what you want, then you can start talking about that in every interaction that you have. You can start building that narrative online to say, I've been researching front covers of this particular magazine and I'm obsessed with the clothes here. I'm obsessed with the hair here. You could post something every day of covers that you like, and then you'll be known as the person that's into covers. You'll be known as the hairstylist that's obsessed with cover hair. Mm-hmm. And so all of this, we're just getting into the process of narrowing, and getting more specific on who you are, what you want, and what direction you're going into. Because without having direction or a North Star, there's no intention.
Right.
There's no intentionality with what you're saying, how you're saying it. And there's so many opportunities.
And direction.
Yeah, there are so many opportunities for you to seed your mission, for you to seed your brand into the world. Think about the amount of interactions that you have, both IRL, in real life, and online. So when we're building our brand as well, we are speaking to online presence, digital, and we're speaking of in real life presence.
So as you're talking about your presence online, or our presence online, I'd love to talk about getting visible.
Yeah, so visibility is, there's so much to say. So putting this quite simply, if people can't see you, you don't exist. And I just want to dissect that sentence, because
that's kind of heavy.
I know. And the reason why I say it that way is you got to be out there for people to know that you're out there. And the visibility part is people need to be able to see you, to know that you are someone they could collaborate with, to know that you are someone that could help them. Like, you are someone that could be part of a team, that could make up this shoot, that could help this person get from A to B, that could solve this problem that somebody has had unsolved for so many years. And the visible piece is really understanding that in order for you to grow your business, in order for you to find your aligned clients, in order for you to grow your community, in order for you to sell your product, whatever your goals are and whatever reason you're here and you're in the room, you need to be out there. And I do really want to make a note here that you also have the ability to be out there in the way that works for you.
Yeah, I'd love some examples, to be honest. Like, because when I think of out there, I could look at like a pre-COVID me that looked like being at bars and things, and that just doesn't feel really right anymore.
Yeah, I think this is the part, and it's a good time to talk about discernment. When you're listening to people's conversations, when you're having conversations with humans in the world, be discerning with what your vibe is and who you are and what you need.
Comes back from knowing yourself, like what we spoke about, the inner world.
It's literally this. It is
Yeah.
all connected. So you need to understand what works for you in all of these different elements of building your business, of building your product or service, of getting out there, of finding your aligned clients. And so an example to your point of visibility is, does it work for you to go and network in real life, or go to different parties, or go on Eventbrite, or go on any site that helps you experience a city in a different way, where you may meet different people? Is that your version of being visible? Is your version of being visible filming exceptional reels and just putting reels online? Is it being on TikTok? Is it starting a newsletter that's like a weekly newsletter where you share 5 tips that you've learned from being on set with fashion designers? And all the things that I'm saying right now are different marketing tactics and tools. Social media marketing, events marketing, networking is marketing, being on TikTok is marketing, having an email is marketing. But the question at times can be, but what am I saying? Okay, but what do I say? It's like, all right, what you say is you talk about yourself, you talk about your interests, you talk about what lights you up.
Or what you were saying, the elevator pitch, or you're just like one-liner.
Absolutely.
Or, yeah, interest, hobbies. We spoke about that too, right? Like,
Yeah.
what makes you different? What makes you unique?
Yeah, what makes your service different? What makes your service unique? A lot of the time it's because it's delivered by you. So that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes it unique. So with this kind of visibility piece, getting comfortable with being out there will come from you working on yourself. That's how it works. When you work on yourself, when you go through the process of self-discovery, when you go through the process of introspective, reflective work, they are the things, and those are the exercises that will help you build confidence, so that when it comes to the point of visibility where you need to put yourself out there and exist, people know what you're saying. People can understand what you're saying. It's so clear, and you're also delivering it in a way that feels really good because you're confident. And so the visibility piece is really ensuring that you know that you need to be out there in order for people to know that you're someone that they can work with, that they can collaborate with, that they can meet.
I want to also pick up on something that you said before. You said exceptional reels. And I just want to say, like, what does that look like with standards or with people who are perfectionists?
Wow, that's such a good point, because there's this sentence that I say to everybody, which is, the process of getting better is the process of taking massive, imperfect, consistent action.
Right. So could we rebrand exceptional reels as reels?
Yes, we can rebrand exceptional reels to reels, because if you're somebody that would like to do that, but you might be a perfectionist, there is a point that you will have to get to. Okay, you don't have to get there, but there is a point that you will need to get to if you want to get better. We do not start perfect.
Right.
We do not start as an expert. It takes massive, imperfect, consistent action to move things forward, to get better. And there really needs to be humility spoken about at this point. Let's be humble. Let's give ourselves compassion and know that we're not perfect and we're not going to start perfect. And in order to get better, we need to at least try. And that comes with being brave, and it comes with learning that is very courageous. And again, being on our team and saying, like, I'm going to try instead of not trying at all. And if you want to attract your aligned audience, if you want to build your community, if you want to sell your product and your service, if these things are resonating with you, then you need to be visible. So if you need to be visible, how can you be visible in a way that's supportive? Let's manage our nervous system. Let's start to see building a reel in manageable steps to get there. So you've never built a reel before. Okay, what resources can you start to investigate in? Can you look on YouTube? Can you ask your friends? Can you message someone you've been following for ages and say, I love your reels? Do you literally have 15 minutes where you can talk to me about how you got started? Reaching out to your network and like using your community is so powerful in this. And the whole reason why we're having this conversation is, we're not expected to do things alone, and no one does things alone. And so understanding that everyone starts from somewhere, and it's really important to like just take a beat and give yourself a break if you're not perfect yet.
So I'd like to also just touch on you and your experience of getting visible. Like, you're a business owner, you've had your business for a couple of years now. Can you talk to me and just give us some examples of what it's looked like for you to be visible in your space and in your lane?
Yeah, there's so much here. I can't believe the person that I am today. Like, it's crazy. I dreamt of having this confidence, of being able to really back myself, of being able to articulate what I do, to speak in this way. Even this is like things that I always wanted to do, but I was like, how the hell do I get there? Because I'm so not feeling like I'm even worthy of being, visible in whatever that looks and feels like to you. And for me, it was a very, very kind of small win process of having a look at like, right, I find it really hard to even put my face online. Like a static, still image, I find difficult. So, how can I start to familiarize myself with myself? Find supportive friends and people who I trust to start taking photos of me. So I start with that, like, okay, this is a safe space. I know that if I need an image for my website, I'm going to choose someone who is my safe person, and they are someone that I have a deep relationship with. So I trust them. And then moving to, okay, well, I'd like to kind of experiment with videos. And so I would take after take after take of selfie videos of myself to just familiarize myself with the look of myself, with the sound of myself, not expecting that it's going to be perfect straight away, and not actually posting it straight away, but just building up the relationship with my body and this new skill to say, okay, Tish, it's okay. When you post online, it's going to be okay. When you record yourself, it's going to be okay. And almost actually like talking to myself in the process of doing that. You see people online and you see them visible and out there, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. Look, they can do that. But how could I ever do that? Like, if you're wanting to build a brand, you need to be visible, and you need to work on this process of kind of finding confidence, but also appreciating that you need to build a relationship up with the new skill. It doesn't take 24 hours to learn how to fly a plane. It's not going to take 24 hours to learn how to do a brilliant reel, and whatever brilliant means to you.
Yes, exactly. And can you talk about small wins too? You mentioned that. What do small wins mean? What does it look like?
Yes, how to eat an elephant is something that I speak about frequently. My friend said this to me once. And when you think about eating an elephant, or, climbing a long, large, tall mountain, it's small, actionable, approachable tasks and things that you can tick off that feel like you can actually get to. Instead of being like, I would like to produce a brilliant reel every day of the week online, that doesn't seem very achievable if you've never done it before.
Right. It's like, I want to know that I can actually do it. I want to also hold myself accountable. I want to prove to myself that I can do it without beating myself up that I haven't done it.
Yes. And actually a good thing to note here is when I was starting, I had like my support people, or my like cheerleaders, I called them, where I would send content to them, and you were one of them, where I would say like, do I sound good here? Do I sound regulated? Am I being able to communicate the message that I actually want to communicate in this video? So again, reach out to your network, practice doing that, but also start with baby steps. Step 1, research on YouTube. Step 2, message some people that you admire, see if they can help you. Step 3, try and test doing those things yourself to be able to build that relationship up with, the camera, if that's the example that we're using. And this is how you get better. You don't wake up ready, and you don't wake up better. You need to actually do the thing. So we think about the thing, we feel the thing, and then we take action to do the thing.
Actually, one thing that you do, and I would love to talk about the evolution of it, is your Substack. So it's just like one tiny offering, one tiny thing that makes up you, your business, and what service you provide. But the evolution of your Substack, it started with like maybe writing, which was a new medium for you. And I remember like reading through some of that, like giving you some critique or support on that. And then the next phase was like voice notes on your Substack. And I just think that like that's so interesting, and like one offering or one way of getting visible, and then like all the different ways that you can explore that maybe kind of isn't natural. Like writing wasn't natural to you.
My gosh, when I first started my Substack, the intention was a playground.
Right.
Like with all of this being said, brand and marketing like can be fun, and like
Yeah.
brand and marketing, like you don't have to take yourself so seriously. Like just try, and it can be really hard to publicly be a baby because you're starting, you're like learning how to walk in. It's so vulnerable and revealing, and you're like naked in front of everybody, but that's how you get there. Because if I'm naked in front of everybody and you want to judge me or you want to have an opinion on what I'm doing, like stay in your lane. I'm in mine. I'm playing. I'm learning. I'm growing.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that the intention was a playground.
Yes. So the intention was like, how can I try this thing and just see how it goes? So I started writing. I then started a voice note. I then went back to writing. I then started interviewing my friends and people in my community that inspired me, and I did a series of interviews. There was actually I learned how to use GarageBand, which is like an editing app. I'd never done that before. I called in my friend from the Philippines who's a surfer, and
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
yeah, literally. Like I did so much random stuff. And then I moved to, now I leave voice notes once a week. Sometimes I write things. It depends on how I feel. But like that space is for me. But what that space really helped me do is develop these skills to actually help me show up as myself and build that confidence. And again, I can show up online. I can be myself. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. I am worthy of talking about makeup and business and sheets and linen and music and surfing all under the same like umbrella, and also be taken seriously as a business consultant, which I am.
Right.
So
You're definitely making me think about, again, going back to the beginning of the whole person. What makes you you? What are your interests? The fact that I can be a hairstylist that's interested in so many other things, like, for example, composting or cooking or, spending, lovely time with friends in nature.
yeah, 100%. And I think all of these things, like collectively, they help us build the confidence to be in the light of kind of worthiness, really.
Yeah.
Like so much of this is like, you are worthy like the person that you aspire to be. They are no different to you. Of course, I want to be very clear on there might be different elements or parts of that person that like literally makes them different. But I do think like someone could say, why me? And I always say, why not you? Like literally give me some clear examples. Why not you? Because there are a lot of things that are accessible for us to try and to test with. And it's for you to really define, like, where do you want to go? What do you want to try? What do you want to test? Can you allow your ego to get out of the way so you can just have that kind of beginner's mindset and like know that, you may fall or trip in front of people, but like, so what?
I can't wait to keep diving into this work. I think that's the other thing. This work doesn't really end. It's like because you keep evolving as a person, maybe your brand keeps evolving, your product or your service. So to revisit this type of discussion or type of work is kind of necessary if you want to stay aligned, stay in ease, stay in flow.
Yeah, well, I used to work in, I'm based in London now, but I used to work in New York, and that's where I started my career, really working with, VC-backed startups and working in different agencies. And with brand work, if we were to put ourselves in like the business world, you look back on your brand work once a year as a business, as a corporation, because you need to see, are we aligned still with the partnership that we're going into? Are we on course?
Like on your goals.
Absolutely. Are we the people that we were 2 years ago? We've just hired, in 2 years, 250 more people.
Yeah.
Is this still the path that we'd like to go down? So revisiting brand work happens, for a business or for a creative, or a freelancer, etc.
Well, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. I can't wait actually to continue this work, dive deeper, and yeah, discover more of who I am and I guess be able to present that.
Yeah, no, and I also hope that there are approachable kind of tools and tips and tactics to take on like after this conversation. And I mean, a massive part of this work is for me to help make brand and marketing accessible to people that are not in the brand and marketing world. So I just like, I'm very grateful to have had the chat with you, and especially like you're my sister. So it's like very casual and chill.
Oh, thank you. So I'll be having more conversations with experts, connecting experts with creatives, freelancers, business owners to really help develop your product, service, or whatever you're offering. You can follow me at Adlena on Instagram.
You can follow me at Tish Diggs, that's with 1G on Instagram, or you can find me online at www.diggsagency.com.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.